The thing with protective styling is it can either be glorious and just allow your hair to flourish beautifully, or it will completely ruin your life and take your edges with it. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Precious, and this is my third installment in my How to Grow Type 4C or Type 4 hair series. We're going to be talking about long-term protective styling in general. Is it good? Is it bad? Does it break hair? Does it not break hair? Let's get into it. If you are wondering what's going on with my hair, these are Mystic braids, and this is the protective style that I will be wearing for the next few months. I actually just installed them over the weekend. If you are interested in seeing how I was able to achieve these Mystic braids, make sure to subscribe. I'm going to be uploading the installation process video in the next few upcoming weeks, and I think that it's going to be straightforward enough that if you're interested, you should be able to duplicate it for yourself. Anyways, let's get back on topic and talk about protective styling. The reason why protective styles can be so great is because they allow you to not have to work in your hair and manipulate your hair for long periods of time. And if you're not working in your hair, touching your hair, manipulating your hair, then that is going to allow you to typically see more hair growth because you don't have the opportunity to break your hair. Growing up, we used to get braids done on our hair all the time. And my family is Ghanaian, so we would typically go to other Africans to do our hair. African hair braiders are very good at gripping your hair extremely tightly. We would expect that if we're getting our hair braided, we're gonna come home, take Tylenol, our head and scalp is gonna hurt for the next 2 weeks, and then over time it's gonna loosen up, and that was just like a rite of passage. That's just what we thought was normal when getting our hair done. We would notice that our hair always seemed to grow a bit after taking it out of braids. So there was this belief that braids grow your hair. And we thought it was because the African braider is pulling your hair so tightly that it's encouraging the follicles in your scalp to grow quicker. That's really what I thought. But over time, I never noticed my hair growing all that much. So I think in around like high school, I was like, that's not true. It doesn't actually grow your hair because my hair is still short. So I'm just gonna not do the braids anymore. I'm just gonna start doing my own weaves, and that way I don't have to deal with crying for 10 hours while someone pulls hair out of my scalp. So I was minimizing the amount of time that I was ever really having to deal with my hair. So it was months until I had taken out those braids, and that's when I saw that I had accumulated so much growth. I had my hair braided pretty much my whole life, and I never noticed this kind of hair growth. So after further analysis, I identified 4 different components that together really will dictate whether or not your style is going to be protective or if it's actually going to cause you harm. So those 4 main components that I'm going to be talking about today are 1, prep, 2, upkeep, 3, takedown, and 4, post hair care. So let's start with prep. How you prepare to put your hair into a protective style is extremely important, maybe even more so than the actual protective style itself. When I'm doing my hair, my preparatory stage is a day all by itself because I always pre-section all of my hair before putting it into a style. It allows me to pay close attention to my hair and really work slowly and carefully to detangle it with my fingers and get the sectioning done in a way that I would like it to be done in. And I'm also never trying to make my pre-sectioning perfect. I'm trying to go for the least amount of sections possible to get the style and the fullness that I want. Sometimes when I'm watching videos on YouTube of people getting their hair braided, it just makes me feel so bad because the braider, they are just treating their hair like it doesn't matter if it breaks. A lot of their clients don't have long hair. So I'm like, you're talking about you're putting in a protective style, but the people that you're putting this protective style on have not been able to grow their hair. Why is that? Why is no one concerned about that? Yeah, the style that you're putting in looks cute, but what about the actual health of your client's hair? Why don't you care about that? You care more about gelling it up and making it look all perfect, but over time, all of those perfect sectionings are gonna cause balding and thinning in those areas. There is no style that is worth the health of my hair. So my sections aren't perfect, they're not perfectly neat, and I'm doing all of that to make sure that in that first preparatory stage, I'm not causing a lot of damage, so that I can make sure that the protective style actually is able to show me growth. 2, upkeep. I like to keep my protective styles in typically for 3 months at a time, but that does not mean I'm keeping those initial braids in for 3 months at a time. It means my hair is going to be predominantly braided or in a protective style for 3 months, but I'm redoing those braids. Every month, I will start to redo braids, and I'll usually do like 6 or 8 at a time. It just depends on how much time I have available to me. If you don't do that, in 3 months, when you take down your hair, you're gonna have a monstrous detangling session because you would have built up 3 months worth of shed hair. And the hair oftentimes is very, very matted together, and you have to really break apart that buildup that has happened over 3 months. And I think in that process, you're breaking hairs because your hair is almost like solid. And the other reason is that when your hair grows out, that new hair growth is not being protected. And that means it's able to rub against your clothing, fabrics, your bed sheets, even the other braids in your hair. And that friction can cause breakage. The third reason why I like to redo my braids in this upkeep stage is because when you allow your hair to grow, now it's like those braids are hanging on and it's causing more tension as opposed to being more firmly rooted and anchored closer to your scalp. 3, takedown. How are you taking your hair out of that protective style? Are you, 1, making sure that wherever you're cutting is actually not your hair? Because that has definitely happened to me, and to this day, the back or nape of my hair is a couple inches shorter than the remaining part of my hair, and now I'm in the process of trying to get that nape area to catch up to the rest of my hair. So are you being careful with how you're taking out your hair? 1, with cutting. 2, the process of the takedown itself. Is your hair completely dry, where it's going to be again more brittle and more prone to breakage, or are you hydrating it? When I'm taking my hair down, I make sure to spray it with some water, apply some oil, get anything in there that I can to make it a bit more malleable, because it has been sitting in a protective style now for a while. And even though I wash it in a protective style, it's still going to dry up after being washed. So I want to make sure I add in some water, I add in some oil, so that when I'm taking it out of those braids, I'm not breaking it. I also make sure to do a very thorough detangling session whenever I'm doing a takedown of my hair, because if you do not thoroughly detangle your hair after having it put away in a long protective style for a long time, and then you go and wash your hair, all of those shed hairs are going to just mat up in your hair, and they can cause extreme matting and extreme dreadlocks that will be a nightmare to remove. And then finally, post-hair care. A protective style is only as good as your hair practices. If your hair practices are not on point and you're not being extremely careful with your hair when it's not in that style, it's not going to matter if you get any hair growth during that style, because you're going to break it all off afterwards. Whether that is through your usage of excessive combing, excessive manipulation, not moisturizing your hair and allowing it to be, super dry and brittle, all of those different things are going to outdo any of the potential positive outcomes that you could have received from that protective hairstyle. And I think that is why it took me so long to see any hair growth again, because I was not implementing any careful hair practices when dealing with my hair. So a protective hairstyle is not a get out of jail free card to not have to learn, how to maintain your hair at every other point. It's something that can help you to accelerate your hair growth, but you still have to really nail down a consistent and healthy routine and healthy hair practices in order to be able to see any hair growth. So overall, are protective styles good or bad? The answer is both. I know women who have used wigs to help them grow their hair and have beautiful, beautiful type 4 hair. But I also know women like Naomi Campbell who came out and talked about the fact that having to wear, weaves and wigs in the industry over the course of her modeling career completely destroyed her hair. I don't know the method that was used to apply Naomi Campbell's weaves and wigs, but I know that it must have been way too tight and way too much tension back to back to back. No one in that room who was doing her hair cared enough about it to think about the fact that we're ripping out her edges. You know, nobody cared. All they cared about was making sure that her hair looked good in that wig, in that weave, in that whatever style. And I'm gonna make a whole video on just how to grow and maintain edges. But when I'm doing my edges with a protective style, I am very, very, very careful with them. And I make sure that I'm not doing a lot of partings because I really think that our edges are way too fragile and they can't take it. So oftentimes I'm just making one braid for that entire edge area, and I'm using maybe a quarter to half the amount of hair for my edges than I would for the rest of my hair. Protective styles can be both a blessing and a curse. It's important to expand your thinking past just the protective style itself. How you put your hair into that style, how you upkeep that style, how you take your hair out of that style, and how you take care of your hair in general when you're not doing a protective style. All of those different components are going to dictate whether or not a protective style is going to be harmful for you or if it's going to be helpful for you. I had my hair in braids and different protective styles my whole life. It wasn't until I started paying attention to my hair and what it needed and taking greater care and caution in all of these different stages to actually start seeing results. And my current routine for how I implement protective styling is I wear my hair in protective styles for 6 months straight, where I'm redoing those braids every month. And then at the end of that 6 months, I will wear my natural hair out for a month. And my plan is that I will continue to do that until I reach tailbone length. When I reach tailbone length, then I will likely wear my hair in protective styles for 3 months and then wear my hair out for 1 month and then another 3 months in protective styles and then wear my hair out for a month. So we'll see when I get to tailbone length if that is the routine that I continue to do. Right now I'm at mid-back length, so we'll see. And finally, I want to say, just have fun with it. The best part about protective styles to me, aside from the protection that it can offer you by, not having to manipulate your hair all the time, I get to switch up my look at any time that I want to almost anything that I can imagine. I love that. I can have dreadlocks one day, I can have blue hair one day, I can have purple hair one day, I can have green hair one day. I wouldn't be able to dye my real hair, blue, green, purple, make it long, make it short, do all these different styles. The versatility of it, the versatility and options that protective styles offer you is just so fun to me. And it makes it easier for me to, commit to the fact that I'm gonna have my hair in a protective style for 6 months, because oftentimes I miss my natural hair. If it were up to me, I would have my natural hair out in a fluffy twist out every day of my life. But I know that if I were to do that, it would cause way too much breakage. I need to implement some protective styling. So while I would encourage you to, explore your options and have fun with it and, feel free to get wild and wacky and do some hairstyles that, may be a little bit out there, do whatever feels right. If you want to just stick to, a more simplistic, no added hair type of protective styling, that's great as well. So yeah, I would love to hear about your experiences with protective styling. Is it something that you like to do? And if so, do you like to add hair? Do you like to stick with just your natural hair in a protective style? If you do protective styles, why do you like them? Have you found that they help you grow and retain your hair? If you enjoyed this video and you would like to watch more content like this, please subscribe. I am a planner, so I've already planned out every single week for the rest of the year. I am in the middle of also planning a wedding and buying a house, so hopefully I can stick to that schedule, but so far, so good. So yeah. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to chatting with you next week.